further my observe don't absorb technique. Many of you might have heard about this, as I hope so, because there are 4 videos on YouTube already on the topic, all of which explain this unique approach to filtering out the malignant and pathological power of narcissists over their codependent, or what I call self-love deficient, prey. They have all the power in the relationship when they can get you to fight them, to react to them, to want to defend yourself. And this is just a summary because my observe don't absorb technique is explained in these YouTube videos, as well as in my 1.5 hour full featured seminar video at selfloverecovery.com. But as I explained in these videos, by using the George Bernard Shaw saying, and I have to look at my pillow because, in fact, I'm going to get it. Hold on. This, of course, was not scripted, but a long time ago, I was traveling around the United States giving trainings, and the first time that I gave this training on the observe don't absorb technique, someone in the audience liked it so much that they made this pillow, and the pillow is based upon the saying that I introduced at the training by George Bernard Shaw, where it says, "Never wrestle with the pig. You'll get dirty, and beside the pig likes it." And thank you for the pillow. Well, the point in sharing that is the pig, and we'll call the narcissist the pig wrestler has lived and wrestled in his wrestling ring his or her whole life and knows every square inch of the ring. And their power, their ability to manipulate people requires them to bring in other people in their wrestling ring where they can outmaneuver, outpower, outmanipulate, outthink anyone that wants to try to either defend themselves or perhaps win a fight. And so I teach people to keep out of the wrestling ring, which I call the physical wrestling ring, and that is, or the emotional wrestling ring. The physical wrestling ring is the actual things you do or don't do that engages the narcissist. The emotional wrestling ring is what's in your head. So you can not talk to the narcissist or get into the physical wrestling ring, not respond to an email, not respond to an antagonistic remark, but you can keep them in your head and hear their gaslit narrative, their cut downs, their comments about you. You can keep replaying that tape, and then there's in your mind, and that limits your strength and ability to break free from the relationship and survive the narcissistic abuse. But the reason for this video is I want to talk to you about the primary defense strategy I teach people when introducing the observe don't absorb technique. But before I talk about that, I just want to be very clear. The observe don't absorb technique is one element of many that I teach my clients in my stage 4 of my self-love recovery program. And stage 4 is preparing for the narcissistic storm. And the reason I want you to know about that first is that the observe don't absorb technique in of itself is not enough to solve this codependency self-love deficit disorder thing. Not even close. But within a larger strategy plan to break free from the narcissist, both from their overt and covert manipulation, the tapes in your head, the negative thinking, the insecurity, the self-love deficiency, the observe don't absorb technique is an absolute must tool, if not defensive strategy to survive your attempts to find emotional freedom and self-love. This is the point of this video, is to understand the power of induced conversation. I'll say it one more time. Induced conversation. It is the primary weapon that the narcissist pig wrestler uses in order to maintain their power and control over you. If and when you try to disconnect with them, you try to set boundaries, you try to break off the relationship, you try to utilize the observe, don't absorb technique, it's going to fail miserably if you don't understand what is at stake for the narcissist if they should not be able to keep you in a wrestling ring. Think of it as if you are their oxygen and they needed you to breathe or to live. Narcissists are nothing by themselves despite their own thoughts. They are filled with shame, dread, and insecurity, and they are not conscious of it. In fact, it's almost impossible for them to be conscious of it except in rare occasions when they melt down and that window of opportunity opens up and they can connect to their shame. And many of us have seen how pathetically broken they act, and that's when they beg and plead and will promise you everything. But that window closes very quickly and does not come back. They are oblivious to their darker sides, their shame. The induced conversation is what keeps them in control. It's what commands their power and control strategies. As long as they can get you to respond to them, talk to them, defend yourself, argue, then you are in the wrestling ring. Now, it sounds deceptively simple that this one idea, induced conversation, this one technique that the narcissists use is actually that powerful. But think of it. How many times have you or an SLD or a codependent, SLD, self-love deficient person, or a codependent tried to break free from a narcissist, set the boundaries, a complete break from the relationship, and feel strong and focused and resolute about their plan to finally end the insanity? Well, the narcissist knows exactly the weaknesses and the vulnerabilities of their codependent prey. They understand more than you could ever imagine the ins and outs of codependency addiction, or self-love deficit disorder addiction. They know that there will be a point that you will unconsciously crave their company. Whether it makes sense or not, whether it's rational or not, they know that you are going to find a way to be around them, to be a part of a conversation, to crave their company, emotional connection, or even sexual connection. So for them to make this self-defeating addiction process move forward, they have to get you to talk to them. If you do a no contact mode in your life and you tell your therapist, your friends, and everyone that you are just done, you've walked away, you've blocked them from your phone, you just avoided them from all different places of your life. The only way that they can get back in your life is through induced conversation. They have to find a way to get you to talk. And these narcissists are pretty darn clever, really clever. Sometimes it's just, hey, I just want to let you know that you left your toothbrush at my house. Would love to give it back to you. Let me know when's the time to drop it off. Sometimes it's more antagonistic. You have no idea how much you've hurt me, and I deserve a chance to just have one more. I deserve one chance to explain to you how much I love you, and I think we can work this out. Or it could be deceptively manipulative, and they can throw the kids under the bus. Bobby, the son, Bobby's teacher called me and he said that we should talk, and I think it's a good idea for us to talk. Don't worry about our problems. I respect your boundaries. Whatever the strategy for the narcissist to induce conversation, it's going to be the one that connects most with your vulnerability. I cannot overestimate how important it is for you to know that everything that you worked for in your boundaries, your use of observe, don't absorb technique, in your discussions and plans for breaking free from the abuse in your education and support with gaslighting. The addiction to codependency, the addiction to self-love deficit disorder is so intense. It's so difficult to break. The narcissist just has to find a way to give you just a little pinprick of the drug. And the drug comes from the conversation. It reminds me of a video clip in the Blues Brothers where Jake and Elliot Blues were finally chased by Carrie Fisher, who had, this gun and was trying to kill Jake this whole time, and you didn't know until the very ending why she was trying to murder him. And we would find out at the end that he left her on their wedding day and abused her and neglected her and just treated her really, really badly. And she was intent of shooting him, killing him. Finally, when he's laying prostrate on the ground, full of mud, and Dan Aykroyd is in the back, and he gets up and he takes off his sunglasses and he starts to talk to her. And as soon as he started saying, "Babe, I love you," you could see Carrie Fisher's character just melt. It's like she remembered the love that they had. She remembered the fantasy of being in love. And she dropped her machine gun and went to kiss the Blues Brother. And then he dropped her in the mud and went on. But that scene is such a perfect example of induced conversation. Jake Blues knew all too well that all he needed was to break her focus and her anger and her rage to protect herself and to exact vengeance by killing him. He knew that if he can get her into a conversation and just get her to listen to him, he would connect to this SLDD addiction where she would have this memory of some long-lost love and euphoric experience of closeness and sweet emotional enmeshment. Be careful. Your narcissist might not be as slick and suave and certainly as funny as the characters in that movie, but all they need to do is talk to you. Do not underestimate the power of the conversation. How many of us know, either friends or ourselves, how we as recovering SLDs or codependents, we finally got to the point when we were done. And we were angry. And as long as we stayed angry, we're cool. We are going to march forward towards this idea of finally ridding ourselves of the narcissistic abuse. But something happens and you talk to the narcissist and somehow you remember all the sweetness and the kindness. That's the insanity, the absolute insanity. So when you are applying the observe, don't absorb technique, and you're using many of my other suggestions, techniques, or strategies, including the 3-boundary rule that's in a recent video, please do not forget the importance of neutralizing induced conversation. Be on alert. Do not talk. Do not respond. Do not reflexively interact, because the narcissist knows what they're doing and they will get you back into the wrestling ring, back in that dysfunctional, codependent narcissist dance that I talk about in my human magnet syndrome, by virtue of the conversation. That's all it takes. Think of it this way, and I know this because I'm an addictions counselor, I'm a certified addictions counselor and a certified sex addiction treatment provider, is that if you are sober, for example, I have not smoked in 13 years, and I don't plan to ever smoke again, but I know that I cannot even have one puff, one drag of a cigarette, because once I get the nicotine in me, all of a sudden, the irrational urge of wanting more of something that I thought I could control, that made me feel so good, I have this urge overtake me that I can't control. All of those years of promises that I will never smoke again, all of the years of knowledge that if I smoke just one cigarette, I'll start back up again. all that gets washed away because something happens in my brain that I'm not even aware of, where all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, this feels really good, and I can control it. I can control it this time. And I reach for the next cigarette and the next cigarette, and next thing you know, after 13 years of not smoking, I just bought a carton of cigarettes. And then finally, I say, screw it. I'm just going to smoke. And then the drugs got me. Well, the narcissist is the same way. Look at it like a terrible addiction. And the way that the narcissist gets you to smoke them is to get the conversation going. So in closing, if and when you are ready to leave your narcissist abuser, the narcissist that you work for, the narcissist that you live with, the friend, the family member, the husband, the wife, the partner, and you are resolute about this no contact and the end of the relationship, do not get lulled into the conversation. I hope this helps you, and I wish you the very best of luck in your pursuit of self-love abundance, because there's nothing worse than living a life with this terrible self-love deficiency disorder, this codependency thing. Life is short, and in the words of George Eliot, it's never too late to be the person you should have been. If you like this video, please subscribe or like.